I think one of my greatest challenges in this human experience, in this incarnation, has been overcoming and breaking through judgment, cynicism, sometimes skepticism, frustration, impatience. There's quite a lot there. My father was quite critical of me when I was young, and in fact, to some extent, into my adult years as well. I found myself following his example in many ways. I very often caught myself speaking like him. It was like I became him and would say things or would judge people in a certain way that he would judge them. And I observed myself following some of his patterns. But one of the interesting developments from that was that for a while, when I was sort of between homes, I actually lived and stayed with my father for a few months. I noticed very soon in that dynamic that he was really, in many ways, still treating me as a 10-year-old, even though I was 50-something at the time. This wasn't a great revelation, but it was irksome, and I thought, there's something I can do with this. I do have some spiritual wisdom that I can draw on. And what I did is I said, okay, what I'm going to do, I'm not going to judge him, because I was judging him for him judging me. Sort of the irony of that. I'm not going to judge him for 30 days, so I will try not to have a judgmental thought, a critical thought, or any sort of, he's right and I'm wrong, or vice versa. Those sort of thoughts for at least 30 days. And I did this, and I noticed at the end of the 30 days, because during the 30 days he would be carrying on just as he was before. Nothing seemed to be happening and working. But at the end of the 30 days, I noticed that it stopped. It really did. I mean, it was for me an amazing, because I thought, I'm not sure whether it's going to work, but I'll try it as an experiment. And our relationship became so much better. It became so much more like equal men rather than father and son. But father and son in the more traditional sense, in the more, you do it my way, you have to do this, you have to do that. And that was another huge learning for me as well. But I have been challenged very much by this sort of judgmental attitude that I guess I was in some ways programmed or to adopt in my experience. So I think, one of my, if you like, strengths, I believe, is that I've been able to overcome this. I've been able to, I'm not saying it's gone completely. Sometimes things will come up. Frustration still comes up, for example. But I've been able to catch myself. I have this little technique that some of the viewers, some of the people watching this may want to adopt. And it's, if I have a negative thought, if I judge someone, if I feel myself saying or thinking about someone which is less than loving or supportive, I'll say, cancel that. So, I mean, that may sound very simplistic and so on, but the point of it is that it stops the domino effect. When one thought leads to another, I judge someone and then, and then they did this to me, and then yesterday they did that to me, and so on and so on. So you follow then this sort of domino effect of one judgment after the other. So it's a great way of breaking that pattern, I found for myself. So yeah, that was certainly one of the challenges, and to be honest, remains a challenge. I think one of my other strengths is that I've become much more calm and accepting and loving. I actually have some years ago I made a vow, a commitment to live in and as unconditional love. Now that's a big ask, it's not easy for anyone, I think, in having a human experience and living in this 3D reality. But it's something that I keep coming back to, And another good question to ask, which I ask myself occasionally, was I unconditionally loving in that moment, And if the answer is no, how can I be, and how can I, repair that? How can I, make it better again? Better is the wrong word, but to either forgive myself or the other person concerned, or to stop myself and say, well, okay, this is how I could have responded, Love responds, fear reacts. So if it's a reaction, like a trigger reaction to someone saying something to me, then, I'm thinking, where am I coming from? Am I coming from a place of fear or a place from love? And if I'm coming from a place of fear, that in itself will explain my reaction. So, this is why, as I said before, it's so important for us to focus on love. That would be, I guess, my gift to urge and advise people to choose love, to focus on love every day, in every moment. Of course, it's not easy because we're so we're so programmed not to do that. We're so programmed to be judgmental and to be, this sort of them and us mentality, which we're seeing so often now in the world. But it can be done. Come back to love. Where is the love in this moment? I had a fantastic life coach when I started out my own coaching practice. And she would say to me when I was complaining about this, that, and the other a few years ago, what's not to love? What's not to love? And if you think about it, what's not to love? We can even love COVID. We can even love the worst situation in the world. And people will say, well, that's crazy. Well, no, it isn't, because it's like giving the love, sharing the love is creating love, is energizing the consciousness. Because this is what's happening. Human consciousness is being totally taken over by what I call the negative elite, and this is what we're seeing at the moment in the world. And we need to come back to a consciousness of love, of service to others, which is, the greater good of everyone. What is for the greatest good of everyone? Not for the majority, for everyone, And what else could it be but a loving, kind, and compassionate world that is, totally committed to that. And this is where we will be. Those who move up to fourth density, or the fifth dimension, as some people call it. This is where we will get to. We will get to a place of new, smaller communities, of everyone supporting each other in every way. There's no, dog eat dog. There's no, he's got a better this than I have. No comparing. No judging. No criticizing. And that's what we need. And I feel that in my own journey, as I said, with my father and my early experience of being criticized, of being hurt by the criticism, actually, I needed to go through this to recognize that doesn't work. That didn't work for me, and there is a place within my heart that says, love is the answer. Love is the greatest healer. Love is the answer to everything. Ultimately, it sounds like a cliche. Well, maybe it is, but it's still, try it, suck it and see. It really does make a difference. And so that's my focus. And so I made this vow of unconditional love, and I'm committed to it. Yes, nature has played a huge part in my journey, especially in the last few years since moving up to Scotland. I'm so uplifted and nourished and nurtured by the nature here. My partner and I have spent lots of time walking in nature, being in nature, swimming in a river, swimming in the sea, just making that connection. I think that is part of the solution to humanity's, if you like, challenges, to humanity's issues, that not enough time is spent in nature. You know, we've divorced ourselves from nature. People may work in their garden, and that's fine, and yeah, that's valuable too, but it's like immersing yourself in these wonderful forests, or going for a long walk on the beach along the seafront, walking along a river, just sitting by a river and allowing the flow to come, the energy, to connect with that energy. It's so nurturing and nourishing, I've found. And this is what I think brings out, dare I say, our true nature. You know, this is what enhances our love, because the connection with nature itself is love for me. And in fact, this is why my partner and I are setting up a new coaching business called True Nature Coaching, in which we will coach people using or being in nature to enable them to connect with that, if you like, empowering energy, that beauty, the surrounding beauty, to make them, to allow them rather to feel more connected with who they really are, as opposed to, you know, being in a city where there's crowds and hustle bustle and so on, and it's so much less easy to stay centered and to stay in that place of the true self. So it's all about getting back to the true self, hence True Nature Coaching. So it's walking and talking together in nature. It's, in my partner's case, working with horses, so that she will actually enable people to break through their issues and emotional barriers by interacting and connecting with horses. So again, a great form of nature. Animals can be very, very powerful vehicles, if you like, beings for healing, for self-healing, and this is what we're doing. And yes, and growing our own vegetables, and you know, it's about going back to the land. It's about embracing the land. It's about, you know, embracing our environment with love. You know, and it's a two-way thing, really. As I said before, it's important to give the love, to share the love. You know, it may sound crazy, but when you're out in nature and you're loving what you see, you're loving what you feel, say it out loud. You know, you beautiful trees, you beautiful river, whatever it is. And by the way, beautiful, do you know what beautiful stands for? Be you to the full. Beautiful. Be you to the full. Now, if we can all be us to the full, that is beauty. That is, because again, that's our true nature. When we are fully aligned with who we really are, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, everything falls into place. Everything. Things work. And when people are comfortable and come alive in nature, when they feel, you know, there's no distraction. The only distraction is good distraction, if I can put it that way. You know, there's no washing up to do. There's no computer. There's no child to look after. There's no this, that, and the other. But being in nature, to allow oneself to come back to that place of calmness, to embrace the energy that nature brings, which is calmness and beauty and support and unconditional love, really is. The trees are not going to criticize you, the river doesn't care, if you're rich or poor. And so there's this element of, embracing that to enable us to get back again, as I say, to our true self. And yeah, it's not so easy to take it away. It's not so easy when you go into a big city, even if you've just come out of a beautiful nature walk or whatever it is, to take that energy with you. But again, as I said earlier, it's going back to that conscious intent. So I choose love. Someone's pushing you in the underground in London. Okay, step back. I choose love. In other words, I choose to love this person even though they are, they're in my energy field, they're in my face. Maybe there's a karmic element to that anyway, so it's like, welcome it. Unconditional love, right?